The New York Jets are back to school. Well, back to training camp. First day in the first year of Aaron Glenn as head coach. The Jets are at practice. And to help me break it all down, I have Matt O'Leary joining me on the other side of it. So let's get into it.
We want you to bring that here, all right? Go out there and press them and choke them out.
What is going on, Jets fans? DTereman here. Third day in a row. I'm surprised you guys aren't sick of me yet. Did a solo stream on Monday. I had Antoine on yesterday, so a huge thank you again to Antoine for coming on the show. And today we have Matt O'Leary joining us. But first, guys, we're at the 500 subscribers. We're on the road to 1K. You see it right here in the byline. We got to get those watch hours up so I can get monetized, so I can do the channel memberships. I can do the exclusive film reviews for those channel members. We can do the super chats, and I can potentially open up a little merch store. I was talking to somebody that tunes into the show about some t-shirts and getting the price point down to a spot where I think we'll all be really happy about it. We can get that DT merch out there eventually for you guys. So we got to get the watch hours up, but I appreciate all the subscribers, everybody tuning in. Hit the like button, smash the subscribe button. And joining us now is the great, somebody I've talked about probably on every live stream I've done, just about how much of a nice person he is with helping my YouTube channel get up and running in some of the slowest periods for football content. Matt O'Leary joins us now. What's up, Matt? Thank you so much for hopping on.
Yeah, of course, man. Anytime. Excited to be here. And like we were talking about before getting started, we finally got something good, right? Jets training camp is here. It should be easy now doing some videos and storylines for you.
Yeah, exactly. I admittedly, I'm not good at the creative stuff, but I can sit here and talk Jets ball all day. So just give me the content to talk about and I can make the videos, right? So let's hop right into it. You did a video on your channel. If everybody who's not familiar with Matt, and I'm sure almost everybody is, Matt O'Leary NY on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, pretty much every social media platform. Please go check him out. You did a short video recapping training camp, and you talked about a specific play. The Jets team themselves highlighted the play. I'm not going to pull the clip, but it's Garrett Wilson mossing Brandon Stephens. And it's almost like a double-edged sword, right? Garrett Wilson is a great receiver. He makes a fantastic catch, the body contortion, the control, the late hands. Brandon Stephens, we don't want to hear bad things about Brandon Stephens. So unfortunately, it was a pass against him, but it did look like solid coverage. Maybe he just didn't get his head around quick enough. So kind of break that one down for us. What are the positives and the negatives of both sides of that play?
Yeah, I mean, for Garrett Wilson, especially after he gets that mega contract, you just feel good to have, a stud number one wide receiver who can go out there and make plays like that. At the same time, especially with, we're just talking Garrett Wilson contract, Brandon Stephens contract, I think came to surprise as many Jet fans. And, it sounded like a bumpy road for him in minicamp and OTAs. And then, first day of training camp, gets mossed by Garrett Wilson. To his credit, I don't really know if he could have did anything differently in coverage. Like, I didn't think it was horrible coverage. It was just Garrett Wilson made an unbelievable play. So we'll give him a little bit of a pass on that one in particular. But I mean, that's a name that we're going to watch really closely this summer because I think we all kind of think AZ Thomas is going to be knocking on the door soon.
Yeah, it seemed like almost everybody in attendance was giving Stephens credit on the play as well. And it's like, there's only so much you can do against guys like Garrett Wilson. I guess I'll defend Brandon Stephens by saying there's not many in the NFL that can do what Garrett Wilson did on that play specifically. So kudos to Garrett is definitely, the praise is definitely warranted, but let's see a different angle of the throw also, and then just see how tight the coverage was for Brandon Stephens, because I feel like we'd have a different opinion if we saw a wider view and just how much in his hip pocket he really was. But to your point about Stephens and AZ, that's going to be a huge camp battle, right? That almost everybody's going to be tuning into. How quickly can AZ get time with the ones? How quickly can even Malachi Moore get time with the ones? And that was something I did want to talk to you about. It looks like there's a bit of competition in some spots, but You brought up AZ. How quickly do you think he can get on the field over Brandon Stevens?
Yeah, I think it might be tough at the beginning of the year just because, they paid all that money to Stevens, and I feel like they're going to give him a little bit of a longer leash. But I think if he plays the way that we think he can during the preseason and in training camp, they might be looking for ways to get, all three corners on the field, including Sauce and obviously Brandon Stevens. I think that's how talented that he is. And, who knows? Maybe, everyone has questions about the strong safety position. Would they consider moving Brandon Stevens back to safety, something he played earlier in his career? I think it would just kind of be then on Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilks to go about getting their best 11 on the field, however that is. But like I said, I think Stevens will get a little bit of a leash because, they did pay him a lot of money to come in here.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Maybe by mid-season, AZ Thomas is probably getting considerable time with the ones, but the additions of Thomas and Moore really give you 6 strong players in that secondary that allow you to do a lot of things. I talked about with Antoine yesterday, big nickel, where you have 3 safeties on the field and you utilize Cisco, Adams, and Malachi Moore, or you can run your dime package and you can have Michael Carter and Sauce in the slot with AZ and Brandon Stevens on the boundary. So it really opens up for a lot of versatility. Sticking more with the camp competitions, Garrett Wilson, we know he's the number 1 wide receiver. After that, it's a little bleak. We've kind of heard from Rich Cimini, the clear-cut guy is Josh Reynolds. There was one pass that the team put out from Justin Fields to Josh Reynolds across the middle at camp today. I'm not reading too much into that, but when you look at the young guys on the team, Arian Smith, Malachi Moore, Corley, Smith had a pretty good catch in like short yardage situation, it seemed like, and then Corley had a really, untimely drop when he can't afford to have any negatives go his way. So who do you think is going to really emerge in that room outside of Garrett Wilson? It's maybe not for wide receiver 2, but 2 through 4.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Reynolds at the top, and he's the veteran. He's not the young guy in the group, but I do think he likely ends up as the number 2 guy because of working with Tanner Engstrand in Detroit, and they had him a couple of years ago essentially as their number 2. Now they use their tight end and running backs a lot in that passing offense. So despite being the number 2 wide receiver, he was more like 4th or 5th in targets. I think that's going to be kind of the similar thing here with the Jets. Outside of that, man, there are a ton of question marks. I think Malachi Corley has a real uphill battle to make this roster. And I know it's only one play and it's the first day, but like he can't afford to have any mistakes, especially because he missed time too during OTAs and minicamp. So again, really uphill battle for him. And for me on Arian Smith, I love the speed. I just think I need to see consistency with him catching the football down the field. And I'd feel a lot more comfortable about him going forward. But this regime didn't draft Malachi Corley. They don't really owe him anything. And, if he's hurt and not performing for a second year in a row, I think we're likely to see guys like Arian Smith or even Tyler Johnson jump him on the depth chart.
Yeah, it feels like all eyes are on Corley and Smith for different reasons, right? Corley, the eyes are on him because the odds are completely stacked against him. Even the wide receivers coach is the only holdover in the offensive coaching staff. And it's like, if there's one area that could have helped him, it could have been a new coach coming into the room and taking control and him being able to generate a good relationship, a good first impression with that new wide receivers coach. And unfortunately, that's just not the case. And then Arian Smith, all eyes are on him. Obviously, he's a rookie and he was a very polarizing pick at the time. Like in real time, everybody was yelling at the pick and they hated it. So every single catch or every single drop is just going to come under a microscope. And it does, kind of, hurt him as a rookie, just having those outside expectations, that outside noise of like every catch. I'm going to have to go on Twitter and see, Jets fans berating me for having for every drop rather. So that's definitely one to watch. Flipping over to defense with the competition, Quinnen Williams, obviously, just like Garrett Wilson, top at his position. Do you believe in the Nandi hype, the Cowart hype, the Leonard Taylor, the third hype? Who is kind of your big fatty in the middle that you're staking your claim on as DT2?
I think it's going to be Byron Cowart, honestly, who they picked up from the Bears. I thought he was pretty good in a smaller rotational role last year. But the name that people talk a lot about, or the two, are really the other 2 guys. Leonard Taylor, people love as, the story of UDFA. And I think he's probably the most talented, but that doesn't always necessarily mean that he's the most productive, if that makes sense. Like the potential is there, but I think he's got to be a little bit more consistent. And Derek Nottie, I think we all assumed he'd be the early down guy, but that's been a quiet name. Again, it's only one day of training camp, but even throughout the spring, I feel like that's been a name that hasn't been talked about nearly as much. That might be a more fan driven thing. I know Byron Cowart was running with the ones along with Michael Clemens right now as well, because there's no Jermaine Johnson. So I would think he gets the first crack at it, honestly, and then they'll take it from there. And there'll be a heavy rotation too. It's not like he's going to run away and play 65% of the snaps.
Yeah. I was trying to, you know, do my best investigative work whenever the Jets put out a video today, and they did the defensive line in, like, I guess positional drills or whatever. And I'm seeing who's running with who. And it was, like you said, it was Clemens, Cowart, Quinnen, and Will McDonald on the first line through the drill. And I'm like, I don't know if that's how they're actually going to play it. But right now, realistically, that's the top of your depth chart if Jermaine Johnson is not able to go in week one, or if he's very limited in week one. So it's definitely getting a little kind of scary hours up front if JJ's not full health. And Cowart, I guess, is kind of getting the hype, but the coaching staff's doing a good job of not tipping their hand with any of these position groups. The one position group they have tipped their hand in, and it seems like there really is no competition, is the quarterback position, right? Justin Fields has come in. Every single person in the organization really has put their faith and their trust behind him and said he's QB1. Although there is competition, like, it doesn't make sense, right? He's got the job, but there's still competition. I know what they're trying to say is that there's still competitive people in the room, but this is Justin's job. So Rich Cimini today says he goes 5 of 8, 1 of 2 when targeting Garrett on deep passes, which I think is great. Let's get Garrett involved deep and not just only like situationally deep. Like, get him going deep more often than not. And it seemed like whenever he was on, it was really easy to say that he was on. But then when he was off, it was like, okay, that really didn't look great. So a bit of an up and down start. Again, one day, no pads for Justin Fields, but 5 of 8. And it seemed like he had a really big connection with Garrett Wilson on like the third play, obviously the one that they clipped out. But then there was another play along the sideline. So what is your overall takes for Justin Fields this camp, and like, what are you wanting to see from him going into the season? Not just the production output, but like going into the season, what do you want to see from Justin?
Yeah, it's a word that I've used a couple times already, but I'm going to do it again. Consistency, I think, is the biggest issue with Justin Fields. There's a ton of talent there, and there's a reason why the Jets brought him in as a starter. He's still a younger player, and they see all that athletic ability. I think he's going to be a great runner, but I just need to see some more consistency as a passer. And for me, that's going to be a lot eye test wise. I don't think it's necessarily like, oh, he has to complete this percentage of passes in training camp or the preseason or whatever. But I think he just needs to get into rhythm and timing with his receivers. He's going to have that connection with Garrett Wilson because they played together. But whether it's dumping it down to Breece Hall, which I'm a big fan of, I'm sure you are as well, and getting the tight ends involved, Mason Taylor, I think, is going to be a big factor in this offense. And Josh Reynolds as the veteran, I think, is probably next up after that. So I just kind of want to see him, one, be more consistent, and then be decisive, right? He could kind of hold on to the ball too long also. So go through your reads quickly, make a decision, put an accurate ball out there. And it's just going to take some time right now, I think.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I'm trying to temper my expectations for Justin Fields. He was somebody I wanted in the 2021 draft over Zach Wilson. Obviously, once we knew it was Zach Wilson, we just kind of, all the Justin Fields guys just kind of gave up and kind of surrendered to what was going to be Zach Wilson. And now 3 years later, we have him, and I don't necessarily feel better about having him, right? Like, I almost wish we had him in 2021 to see what he could have been, but it seems like they're going to give him every opportunity to go out and prove that he is a quarterback and not just some guy who can use his legs and is just going to look at Garrett Wilson and then run. I want them to utilize his legs. Obviously, I want him to be efficient with that so there's no risk, not like a bigger risk of injury, right? You mentioned it with Breece Hall. He had a couple checkdowns to Breece Hall. I'm not sure where in the progression Breece Hall was. I'm sure that most of them were just checkdowns, but Breece Hall is somebody who's going to be involved in these passing concepts as like the first and second read a lot of these times. So not just speaking about Breece Hall, the entire running back room, which is supposedly going to be by committee, even though I genuinely hate that idea. What do you think about the three-headed monster that we supposedly have in Hall, Allen, and Davis?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of the other two guys. You mentioned Brees, obviously, at the top, but Allen and Davis. I was surprised in a positive way about Allen's pass catching ability a year ago. He was really something he didn't do at all at Wisconsin. And, early on in the year, I believe he had the receiving touchdown against Tennessee. Had a little bit more juice as a pass catcher than I originally anticipated. And honestly, I thought in the second half of the year, Isaiah Davis arguably looked like their best back. I don't know if he's going to end up being their best back this year. I'm keeping my Brees Hall stock. I think he has a big season coming up, but they have three guys that they're comfortable with. I don't know how much of a pass catcher Isaiah Davis will be for this team, but at least with Braylon Allen, he was able to show you last year that he's capable with it. So yeah, I would expect both those guys really to be involved in the passing offense.
Yeah, I think really all three of them, to me, I would honestly go as far as to debate with somebody that Brees Hall is probably your worst pass protector out of Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis. I feel like the want to with the backups is usually a little bit more visible, right? Like the starting running back, they don't necessarily want to get their nose dirty in pass protection, although Brees can do it. But then, like you said, they're all kind of, average, maybe even above average pass catchers too. So they do give you quite a ton of versatility. I've been saying that I think Brees Hall is going to make it easier for Braylon Allen when he's on the field lined up wide as like a slot player, more so than just Fields and then Hall and Allen in the backfield together. I feel like that will work, and that's a good wrinkle to use because nobody knows who's going to keep it, and they're all a threat to run. But then if you have Brees out wide as a pass catcher, a lot of eyes are going to go out to Brees and think that like the ball is going to go to him, which might empty the box for Braylon Allen, who can just get downhill and plug away and break tackles at the second and third level. So I'm really intrigued by the running back group as a whole. I know I have you for probably about 10 more minutes, so we'll break into some of the chat questions as well here. Julian asked earlier, when do they allow pads? Do you think AG is going to go hard on the team in pads? I'm not sure. It's all CBA based when they allow the pads. But in my opinion, I think AG is going to use pads as much as he can, right? As much as the league will allow it, he will probably toe that line of we're going to be as physical and use the pads as much as possible at practice. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree 100%. Just based on everything that he said since his opening press conference, they want to play fast and they want to be physical. And just frankly, they weren't a very good tackling team a year ago, so they could use the extra reps there. Glenn's an old school guy. He played in the 90s. They were doing two-a-days and they were hitting all the time. It's going to be about as physical a training camp as you could possibly have in the modern NFL. That would be my thoughts.
Yeah, I certainly agree. He's going to try to make it as old school as possible, and the players might not necessarily love it, but I think when we come to the middle and late stages of November, early December, these players are going to understand why they did all of that during this portion of the off season. Alan with the chat, he says his D-line has no depth. Furthermore, JJ won't be JJ until October, and Will McDonald is a 1.5 down player. Yeah, that kind of goes into it. The depth is definitely concerning, right? Somebody else is going to have to step up, whether it's Clemens or, Tyler Barron, the rookie. And that'll kind of bring me into this question. AG talked about Michael Clemens being the prototypical football body that you want, right? And he says he plays with power. We want him to continue playing with power. There are things we know that he does well, but there's a lot he has to clean up. To me, it almost sounds like they're admitting that he's defensive end 3, just kind of by default, right? So I got a little bit of pushback on Twitter about this. Are you in agreement with me that Clemens is kind of, for better or worse, just kind of defensive end number 3 right now?
Yeah, 100%. We don't have to like it. I don't like it personally. Yeah. I would love if they had someone better who can rotate in and be a starter essentially early on in the year when Jermaine Johnson's on the pitch count. But yeah, who else would it be? I don't think they're going to put a rookie Tyler Barron there. Rashad Weaver's basically a journeyman. It'd be pretty surprising if he ended up winning that spot. So I think you're right. For better or for worse, right now, it's Clemens' job. And again, that scares the life out of me, but that's what it is.
Yeah, I said, unless he's like literally unplayable in training camp, this coaching staff has no choice but to use him unless Tyler Barron really pops off and is just, one of those players you can't keep on the bench any longer. But it seems like even if it is Clemens's job to lose, there is a ton of opportunity for somebody else to come in and steal that role, at least until JJ is healthy. We have a follow-up comment from David D6. Shout out to you, our I guess, resident Lions fan in the chat. He said the Lions' 5th practice is on Friday. They didn't practice today, and that's going to be the team's first padded practice. So whenever the Jets' 5th practice is, I'm sure they'll be out in pads on that one. I'm sure AG is not going to take any time to not be in pads. And then you'll really get to see what guys like, Michael Clemens or Armand Membu can really do for this team. Speaking of Armand Membu, I guess we haven't really touched on him as a rookie yet. What are your expectations for him? I know there's some people out there that are kind of reserved and think Chuks Okorafor could start for a couple games. I say just throw Membu out into the fire if he's even close to what you think Chuks Okorafor is going to give you. So do you think he's just going to step in day one and be that guy?
Yeah, I do think he's the starter right out of the gate. And, I'm really bullish on what he can be, especially in the run game early on. The pass pro might take a little bit to get there for him, just based on what we've seen at the collegiate level. I think eventually he'll get there, but, this team's going to be a really run heavy offense, and that he fits to a T that style. And, he's really athletic. He can get out in space and move. I think he's a perfect fit for the kind of rushing attack that they're going to have. So, yeah, he might have his weeks where it's a little bit rough, and that happens for rookie tackles in this league, but I'm really confident in him, specifically in this system. I think it's a good fit.
Yeah, I think it was Robbie Sabo earlier today commented on his feet and how well his footwork was in drills. And I said that was one of the things about him that I thought was going to translate the easiest to the NFL is his almost near elite footwork in pass protection allows him to get to that landmark really quickly. The run blocking stuff, he is pretty good at, being the bouncer that's going to kick you out of the club. I want to see it with a little bit more consistency. You turn on games and he's flattening second level defenders right away. And then there's games where he's a little bit more timid and he's not playing through the whistle, but we know it's in there, right? We just got to find it and bring it out of him 100% of the time. So this will be kind of the last question for you here. Overall, what are your expectations? What are a couple key things you want to see out of this team in the first year under Aaron Glenn? And if you want to give a specific record prediction, you can. But if you also want to give a small range of where you think the win total is going to be come the end of this regular season.
Yeah, I just want to see tangible signs of progress here. They're a 5-win team a year ago. And it just really felt like by the end of the year, they didn't have a direction. They were on an interim head coach. Aaron Rodgers was throwing the ball to Devontae Adams 15 times a game. It just wasn't a fun watch. And now, I think at least I established an identity. We know they're going to want to play strong, fast, physical. They're going to run the ball. Let's see what Justin Fields has. If he's the answer, great. If not, that's okay. You could use your first round pick next year to find hopefully your long-term answer at the quarterback spot. I think somewhere between 6 and 8 wins is where I am for this team. I split the difference. I say 7 on my official prediction, but I feel like, if everything clicks, maybe it gets above that and you could talk about sneaking into a playoff spot, but I'm kind of going tempered expectations, just don't get blown out, be competitive, don't lose by 35 in Buffalo, play tight games, and just give us a watchable product. And I think I'd be pretty satisfied with year one of Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, I seem to align with you with my win total. I fall at 7, but I say that and I hate having to say 10 losses because that's double digits, right? And like we haven't had more than 7 wins in the last 10 years. We know how long the history of poor play has been. So I really want to say 8 and 9. My heart isn't there yet. So I'm kind of stuck at 7 and 10, which is really unfortunate. But I agree, you have to find your identity, right? This is a huge discovery year for AG. I mean, this isn't 2021 all over again. We have a lot more talent on the roster than Saleh did coming in. There's no excuse to have a 4-win season and then really be at the top of the draft class looking for your quarterback. If you need to get up to the top of the draft class to get your quarterback, that's a different scenario, and we'll have to see just exactly how far Justin can take us. But I do seem to align with you. AG today said that it's a one-day mentality, right? We know the ultimate goal is the Super Bowl, but we have to break our goals down into stages and milestones, and we have to build up to something here. We can't just go from the basement to the attic up with Beast Breaker and expect to win the Super Bowl right away. So I do think the mentality should be a little bit tempered. I know there's people out there saying double-digit wins, and I love the optimism in this fan base. It's like it's crazy how badly beaten we can be and then come back around in a couple months. But I do appreciate you hopping in with us, Matt. You can plug all your stuff before you got to go. And thank you once again for coming on.
Yeah, anytime, Dylan. It was an absolute blast. You can follow me, mattolearyny, on all socials, on YouTube. We're talking Jets every day. We like to keep it light and fun. So make sure to check it out if you haven't.
Absolutely, Matt. We will have to get you back on soon, and I'll see you week 1 when we take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm coming to the tailgate. I'm purchasing my tickets this weekend, so really excited to come in and not meet you. I met you in 2023 with Ryan and Green Bean, so really excited to see you guys once again.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. Looking forward to hanging out with you, and for sure, I'd love to come back on. We'll have to get you on the show too, and we'll talk soon, Dylan.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, Matt. That is Matt O'Leary. Everybody go follow him, Matt O'Leary NY. I've tagged all his stuff in the description of the chat. I'm sure every single one of you guys knows Matt and follows Matt already. Like I said at the top, somebody who's certainly been a huge help for me, getting off the ground with my YouTube channel, really answering some of the questions that I had for him. And even if they were stupid questions and really like rookie questions, he was very patient with me, and he was very informative on how to really do this the right way. So very appreciative of Matt. I'll stick around for another, 20, 30 minutes with you guys like I did yesterday with Antoine, kind of similar format. Wasn't sure how long we were going to have Matt on, so I'm glad that we were able to get the full half hour with him. So I'm going through the chat now, looking at some of your questions. I saw one in here. I believe it was from Luppy. Maybe it was from Jake. Okay, yeah, Jake. He said, 2 of the best right here. Dylan, congrats on 500. This is my first time catching you live. Well, shout out to you catching me live. Do you have a schedule or is it random? So, yeah, for right now, it kind of is random. It was just I got Antoine and Matt to agree to come on back-to-back days, so I'm glad that I was able to do that. I was holding down the Monday night spot, but as of next week, Buffalo Jet Fan and I are going to be back doing our Monday night shenanigans. It'll probably be on his channel to start this upcoming Monday, and then we're going to alternate. So every other Monday is going to be on this channel, me and Buffalo live. That'll probably be like 7-ish at night. So we'll be back to the Monday shenanigans next week. And then for me doing my live shows, I'm somewhere between Wednesday and Thursday, maybe Wednesday night or Thursday night. It'll definitely be in the afternoon or evening. I would like to find like a true 6 p.m. on Wednesday or 6 p.m., 7 p.m. on Thursday, whatever it is. I have to, once we get into the season, really figure out how the season's going, how much time it takes me to go back and watch the film, break it all down, come back with concise notes on how to break down the game properly. So I'm thinking Wednesday or Thursday, but I'm definitely going to do a short post-game recap. Some are going to be live, some are going to be pre-recorded. I'm going to do game previews on like Fridays or Saturdays that are most likely going to be pre-recorded, where I'll take some of your questions about the upcoming matchup and incorporate those into the show. So it may not be a live format, but we'll definitely keep, the community involved with your comments and everything like that. And then once we get into the season, I've kind of explained this. I'm most likely going to start doing a call-in show. Maybe it'll be like a post-game scenario where we talk like right after the game, and I let a couple people, call in like 2 or 3. Not going to, sit on for hours and let everybody yell about all the losses or, whatever happens. But we'll definitely start mixing in callers sooner once the season starts and once we have just like full football to talk about. So with that, opening up to all your questions. Doesn't necessarily have to be football related. You could just ask any questions, and I'll do my best to answer them for the next half hour. Let's see what we got here. Oh, Nick Shine in the chat. Matt and Dylan, good stuff. I appreciate you, Nick. Always love talking with Nick. And now that he and I are friends on Instagram, we share lots of good memes together. So I like this, Nick. This is becoming fun on Instagram DMs. So shout out to you, Nick. Everybody tune into his show. I don't know if I'll be able to stay up for most of it, but I always try to catch the first half hour of the Nick Shine show starting at 11:10 or 11:20 tonight on his channel, the Nick Shine show. Chris B says, hit the like button. Please subscribe to Dylan Tereman. I appreciate you, Chris B. You are literally the most positive person out there in the Jets community. Other people in the chat, Peg and Artie, shout out to you. Alan, Rich, Maisie, Bill M, Clancy, David D. We appreciate you all for tuning in. Not seeing a ton of questions here, so this might wrap up a little bit quicker. I'm still glad that we were able to get Matt on for a half hour. It is day one, right? There's only so much you can talk about, I know the AG presser kind of got, upended. The media team really screwed the pooch on that one. I don't know what the hell happened with those technical difficulties. But that's where I'll say same old Jets, right? When shit like that happens to this franchise, that's when I say same old Jets. I hate when it has to do with like the football related aspects of it, because that's when all I care about is just winning football games. So I'll say same old Jets for the media team, not even being able to figure out how to conduct a media press conference with their coach on the first day. All right, Jake comes in with another comment, draft comment. Say we guarantee getting a quarterback in the draft. What quarterback is your choice and why? Preferably an in-depth reason. So yeah, I have a video ready to go. I've already recorded it. This was coming off the heels of watching Lenora Sellers and Cade Klubnik, and I just did like a Palmetto duel of the two South Carolina quarterbacks from the state of South Carolina. And I came away a little bit more impressed with Cade Klubnik by half a point based on the 10 traits that I used. I came away with half a point higher on Cade Klubnik than Lenora Sellers. But when you look at the breakdown, and this is something maybe I'll just have to share as a regular video until we get the memberships for exclusive memberships. But Cade Klubnik, everywhere that he excelled over Lenora Sellers, he was, that's more of a quarterback driven thing. Pocket presence, accuracy, pocket, not presence, but just like escapability. And I know Lenora Sellers has really good escapability, but that's more scrambling and mobility, right? Like the ability to step up and feel the pocket and like feel the pressure and just dip your shoulder, come back and launch a throw. I liked his arm angles a little bit more. So I would say Cade Klubnik by a hair over Lenora Sellers. Do I think we're even going to be in contention for any of these top guys? I hope not. But if we are, I would say Cade Klubnik is my guy. Jake, you come back and said when you posted it, definitely interested in watching the breakdown. So on my channel right now, there is the Lenora Sellers, the Cade Klubnik, and the Drew Aller individual film breakdowns. I didn't publish the Klubnik versus Sellers video yet. I was trying to save that until I got to the monetization threshold so I can make it members only. But I'm probably just going to end up having to make that just a public video for everybody to watch. So I'll definitely keep everybody posted with that. But yeah, Sellers, Klubnik, and Aller are already out on my channel. I'm getting into Garrett Nussmeier. Obviously, having 3 live shows this week, I was a little, tied up doing this stuff, and I haven't gotten into the Garrett Nussmeier film. I have, I think, 3 games that I'm going to watch. I think it was like Oregon, Alabama, and somebody else. I try to pick defenses that are solid, right? I'm not going to pick him against like, some bum team and like, oh, wow, he threw 5 or 6 touchdowns. He's going to be quarterback 1. No, I want to see him against as close to NFL level competition as possible. I also want to watch, if they do make it to the playoffs, I would rather watch the games in the playoffs. I'm also more of a fan, since it's last year's tape, I'm a fan of watching the second half of the college football season. Yeah, sure, it's nice to watch like their first 2 or 3 games and then compare it to the end of the season. But I don't want to just watch the first half of the season, right? If I watch a game in the beginning of the season and it looks bad, like Lenora Sellers had a really rough start to his 2024 season. Then he comes out in the end of the season and he looks like a completely different quarterback. He had the case of the fuckets, honestly, in one of the games, and he just took off and ran, and he changed the game. They were down. It was against Ole Miss. They were down a ton of points, and he just said, you know what? I'm faster. I'm more athletic than most of the players on this field. I'm just going to take off and run. They were down multiple scores, and they ended up losing the game anyway. but it gave him confidence that he's able to, see the field, know when to take off and run and do all those things while still maintaining his eyes downfield and being a really good passer outside the pocket. So I'm definitely a fan of watching the later stages of their season. Obviously, I'm going to try this year to watch more beginning of the season and then compare it to the end of the season. But I always love doing the comparison from last year to this year's film because the bigger the sample size, the more you just understand about a player. You have all these question marks coming in. And every time you watch a game, do you answer any of those questions or do you end up coming out of that game with more questions, right? I felt like Drew Aller, I had a couple questions about him. Like, was he really worth coming out as being quarterback 1 last year or, quarterback 2 in the draft after Cam Ward? And I know there's a lot of rumors that he was going to come out. And then after the first game, I had 3 more question marks. I'm like, why is he scared of pressure? Why does he throw off his back foot? Do his mechanics just break down every time like this? And then I get more into the film and it seems like every time there's pressure in Drew Aller's face or even, a free rusher, even if he has the time to stand in there and throw it and take a big hit, he's just kind of floating away off his back foot and just lofting it up. And it leads to short passes, a lot of incompletions, but he also got bailed out on a couple DPIs down the field that, really saved their drive on a 3rd and long situation. So Drew Aller was definitely a mixed bag for me. And I'm excited to keep watching quarterback film, but at the same time, I hope we don't have to take a quarterback. I just hope Justin answers our questions and we no longer have to worry about the quarterback position. Cause then we can use that pick on like a defensive lineman or a wide receiver or something and really bolster up something that we've been clamoring for as Jets fans for a while. Daniel, what's up? Shout out to you. Appreciate it. He says, Dylan, don't think the Jets will be in position to draft him, but I think Nussmeier is a top quarterback in 26. Yeah, he's the one I haven't gotten to yet. And I know there's a couple people in here, Alan included, that say he's the number 1 guy. And, maybe he's right. And I haven't gotten to him yet. So, excuse me, right now, Cade is my number 1, Klubnik. And then Sellers would be my 2nd. Aller would be my 3rd. But that's just guys that I've watched. I'm not going to, try to blindly rank somebody just off, the highlight film or what I read in a scouting report. I've read up on some of these players and I know a little bit about their history in the college ranks, but I don't know enough to knowledgeably put anybody above Cade Klubnik right now. And there's plenty of time for that to change, but it seems like right now somebody from the state of South Carolina is going to be going really high in the draft. Alan says, excited to see Lagway in College Station. He'll be number 2 in the 2027 draft. Yeah, I guess this is becoming a college quarterback live stream right now. Yeah, Lagway, obviously Arch Manning in 27, Dylan Raiola from Nebraska, the kind of like Mahomes clone that they're talking about. There's another quarterback that I'm blanking on that, but a lot of these, some of these guys might not come out in the 2026 draft either and go back for 27. So I do think the next 2 seasons of the Jets, or not the Jets, the draft is going to be very quarterback heavy comparatively to 2025. Chris B says, if Justin Fields develops and grows as a passer, does he have the tools to become the long-term quarterback under center? So I want to say yes. I was asked if I thought Justin Fields would be the starting quarterback in week 1 of 2026, and I said yes to that. I do think that he will be the quarterback for game 1 of next season. Does that mean he's guaranteed to start all season? No, I don't think that's necessarily the case at all. And there's a good chance that he has a rookie behind him, more than likely waiting in the wings for Justin Fields to be that bridge to him. So if you want to talk about short-term future, yes, I think Justin is going to be here for this year, next year. And then depending on how this season looks, they might add a dummy year on, or not a dummy year, but add him into 2027 where they get him on a cost-effective deal where they can, again, avoid the conversation of quarterback in the 2026 draft, go build up at D-line, running back, or not running back, wide receiver, like I just mentioned earlier, and then get your quarterback in 27 and really feel like you have a better roster to put around him. So it really comes down to what Fields does this year. Would I, pick him to be anything more than 2026's quarterback? No, I don't think 2027 it'll be Justin Fields if I had to bet my money on it right now. But I do appreciate the question. Jake again says, love the passion, Dylan, even with a small group of us watching. Hey, even small group, large group, don't matter. I'll chat ball with pretty much anybody at this point. You'll have a huge following in no time. You're the man. I'll be keeping an eye out for your live streams. I appreciate that, man. And once I have more of a schedule, I'll definitely post it like on my YouTube page or on my Twitter page at DTereman. So you'll definitely know when shows are coming. It's not just going to be like a pop-up show and go. Obviously breaking news and things like that, everybody's going to be going live in the Jets community. So maybe there's going to be a situation like that, but all of my live shows, whether they're solo or with a guest, they're all going to have some sort of, prior promotion where I'm saying at least like a day or like the morning of like, hey, I'm going live at 6 p.m. tonight. So come check it out. So I appreciate that, Jake. And I hope that, I hope you find something good in those film breakdowns. I'll definitely be getting more out of there. And that I'm definitely going to have more film breakdowns once the season comes. A lot of, Justin Fields on third down, things of that nature, a lot of the run concepts that they're running, maybe passing game concepts that I really think Engstrand is, utilizing well with this offense, things of that nature. I'm not a huge film breakdown guy for defensive players. Like there's some that I really like watching, some that I don't. Like you're probably rarely ever going to see a linebacker breakdown on this channel. It's not that I don't like linebackers. It's just they're a little bit harder to evaluate. Their role in the defense is so much more diverse, and like what they're being asked to do might not necessarily be what you see on film. And a bad play doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad play just because it looks bad. Sometimes he was told to do something, he did it, and it just didn't work out based on what the offense does. So I'm not going to watch a lot of linebackers, but I do love watching cornerbacks. I love watching wideouts too. So you're definitely going to get corners on here. Defensive linemen, I did a Leonard Taylor III breakdown on the channel. Also, there's a couple back from a couple months ago when I was still doing work with Jet Nation. There's a couple on Jet Nation's site that I did. AZ Thomas, Arian Smith. There's another one, Fatorma Molba, I believe I did on Jet Nation's site. So there's plenty of, if you just type in Dylan Tereman film breakdown on YouTube, I'm sure they'll all come up. But I'm definitely more excited to start doing film of the Jets players, not so much the draft. All right, keep going with the comments here, the questions, seeing what else we got. Let's see. Chris says, hit the like button. Yes, please hit the like button, subscribe. We're on our way. I set this to a subscriber only chat, so you have to subscribe for a couple minutes before you're able to chat and be a part of the conversation, which I like that aspect of YouTube. So that way you don't just get those random, 6 rings, Patriots 12 type characters that come in and troll you and then hop out. It actually makes them subscribe to your channel at first. So definitely going to be doing a little bit more of that with the live streams, make it more of a isolated conversation with the subscribers and everything like that. Okay, Peg and Artie, this is not Jets related or football related, but is this true? Big Cho has 12,000 followers on Twitter. That's pretty crazy. I was like the 8th follower on their show Instagram, which for anybody who's not in the loop, 18 minutes from right now, we will be receiving the highly anticipated link to the Big Cho show featuring Shania. And I will be tuning in, certainly, on my evening drive. I will be tuning into the Big Cho show for sure. I want to count how many minutes of dead silence there is. Quite a character. All right, this is another non-football, but it's fine. Clancy says, Dylan B said he can drive the ball further than you can. No, I highly doubt it. I mean, he's probably got enough power in there to really get back, but like, I don't know. I've played golf with some really big people before. They just can't get their arms around to swing it fast enough. So like I can really get back in my backswing and follow through and smash it like 250. So I can smash it exactly 259. That is how far I can drive it, Clancy. 259 and not a pound, yard over that. All right, I had one more in here that I wanted. Okay, yeah, Incel Allen said, need a Dylan and Dom C show. Don't worry, Incel Allen. I don't know. Most people probably don't know this, but Senior Bowl week for the past 2 years, Dom and I are roommates in an Airbnb together. We get a rental car and we drive to practice together. We go home from practice and we do our pods and everything together. So we're together for at least 3 or 4 days in February every year. So it's not going to take till February to get Dom C on the show. We'll probably have him on hopefully before the season starts, and then we will definitely have Dom C on throughout the season. I joke around all the time. I'm like, we don't want Dom C on the show because that means that we're talking too much draft talk. But I love chopping it up with Dom. Obviously, his Jets content is great too, but nobody talks more, concisely about the draft and more in depth in this community than Dom C when it comes to the draft. So I really love, sharing that week with him in Mobile. It's a lot of fun. Him and Jets Chaos are we're quite a Three Stooges trio in that Airbnb. I'm not gonna lie, they're great to spend the week with. It's really cool. Except for when Jeremy sets off the smoke alarm for burning his pizza in the oven while I'm live streaming. It's like, Jeremy, I asked you for 30 goddamn minutes and you set off the smoke detector in the Airbnb. So really looking forward to that one. David with a Senior Bowl question. He said, at the Senior Bowl, do you have the opportunity to talk to coaches and scouts? Yes and no. So the practice schedule, or the setup for practice is a little bit, it's changed, right? I was there in 2022 when the Jets full coaching staff was there. I don't want to say that was my favorite year going because every year there's something great that always happens. But I was literally walking down the street with, at the time she was my wife. We were walking down the street after dinner and I walked past the Dumbwaiter, which is a restaurant in the Strip in Mobile. And I see Saleh giving a speech to the entire team, or coaching staff, I should say, coaching staff, front office. They were all out to, dinner at the Dumbwaiter, getting ready for the week of practice. And we walk around the corner and we see this cool thing that we were taking pictures of or whatever. And I turn around and I see this man with white hair walking down the street on FaceTime, and it's Rex Hogan. And I know Rex Hogan is a highly, hated person, and a lot of people have mixed opinions about Rex Hogan. But I mean, I turned around and I was like, holy shit, that's Rex Hogan. I said hello to him. He was very kind. I had a Jets hoodie on and he was like, hey, I was like, go Jets. I was like, this is great. I didn't call him by name, but I knew who he was, right? Like I didn't need to make it a point. He was on the phone. He was getting back to his hotel, whatever he was doing. So I met Rex Hogan in the street the first year. And then the second year, getting off the plane in Pensacola, Florida, because I go to Pensacola and then I drive to Mobile instead of trying to fly into Mobile. You just save a couple bucks and you get in the rental car anyway. So you could just drive 40, 50 minutes to Mobile from Pensacola. And I get off the plane and I almost walk into the person in front of me because I'm like, tweeting about how excited I am to be at Senior Bowl. And I almost walk into this gentleman in front of me with a Jets backpack. And I see on the tag, it says Savage on the bag. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is just a cool sticker that's like Jets and Savage, whatever. And then I look around and God damn it, it's Phil Savage, right? So him and I talk and I tell him how I met Rex. And it's actually really, kind of awkward because I said how nice of a person Rex was. And, he said, yeah, Rex is a great guy, whatever. And then the next day, the article drops about Rex Hogan and the Jets parting ways. And obviously he's not going to say anything to me as like a stupid fan in the airport about his colleague getting fired from the organization or parting ways mutually. But so I met Rex, I met Phil. Who else did I meet? I met a couple Jets scouts were one table over from Glenn and I at dinner. Glenn Naughton and I, my co-host from Jet Nation, we went out to dinner. And I think the Haberdasher, and we sat one table over from 3 or 4 Jets scouts, including Jay Mendelesi. He's now the director of college scouting, I believe. He's on One Jets Drive all the time. He was there. We said what's up with him real quick. And then in that same restaurant last year, now you just got me on a tangent of all the cool things I've seen in Mobile. But last year in Mobile, pretty much every ESPN and NFL Network analyst walked into the Haberdasher at the same time when I was eating my steak. It was like Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, Matt Miller, Matt Bowen, Jeremy Fowler, so many other people from ESPN. And I think the coolest part about all this was in the middle of this was just Will Parkinson, right? So like I was like, yo, what's up, Will? Like this is great. And like I don't know how he got in with all those people. Shout out to Will. He does a great job networking himself down there. And that's what it's really all about. It's just seeing these faces and like just saying hello and just introducing yourself. And who gives a shit if Ian Rappaport forgets my name in 4 seconds? Like you just walk by these guys at practice. But so back to what I was saying is after the first year, they really separated practice. Like all these media credentialed people, like on my level, you see how many holes are punched out of this lanyard here? Like all these holes that are empty, that's all the places I can't go, right? So the more circles you have filled in, the more access you have. But right now, the only access I have is between practices. I can go down and talk to people who are participating in the Senior Bowl and potentially some of the coaches that are at the Senior Bowl. It's really hard to get the coaches, for more than a couple seconds, just for a little viral clip like Jeremy has of him yelling that he loves Jeff Ulbrich the year that they were here. But it's more just player interviews of the prospects themselves. I think the coolest interview I had was now I'm blanking on his first name, the linebacker from NC State, Wilson. He battled a couple injuries, and now I think he's in Pittsburgh. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name, but I asked him a question about who he modeled his game after, and he gave me this really great answer about Luke Kuechly and how he models his game after. And I'm like, damn, you can really, tell the influence that Luke Kuechly had on his game. No, it's not Roman Wilson, Chris Brown, Peyton Wilson. Thank you. Chris B. I appreciate you. Connor Long as well. Shout out to you, Connor, by the way, moving up in the world, getting credentialed at One Jets Drive. I told you, man, it's just a matter of time before all these Jets content guys are looking up to you at this point. So shout out to you. Great achievement. Dave Briga would be proud of you for getting your credentials. But yes, Peyton Wilson, thank you. So you get cool interviews, and like Dom C's posted those interviews before too. So if you've seen anything like that, that's kind of the stuff that you're going to get. And I'm going to, focus more on, the player interview side of it this week or this year upcoming. It's going to be my 5th year already. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, I would say as far as like the getting to see people in passing during practice, it's gotten a lot harder. They put guys that like Matt Miller and Connor Rogers, like they used to roam the sidelines that I was on, and now they're on the other side with like the more heavy credentialed people and like the scouts on that side and everything. So they make it a little bit harder, but that's also part of them growing as a Senior Bowl, right? Like they've grown exponentially over the last 4 years in terms of every year they're breaking records with the amount of media people that they credential. I think it was like 14 or 1,500 last year credentialed media members. It was just some insane number of people. And Dom C could attest to that too, because the sidelines definitely are more and more packed. So truthfully, anybody out there that, is credentialed and feels like they have a shot, just, it doesn't hurt to apply. Molly Middleton is a really easygoing person. She's the rep. I believe she still is the rep for the Senior Bowl, even though they changed their name. They're no longer Reese's Senior Bowl. They're now Panini Senior Bowl. But Molly is great. And the best part about it is if you get credentialed once, every other year following, they just push you through because you've already been there before. So it's really just that first year getting over the credentialed hump, so to speak. And Jet Nation did a great job of, helping me apply for credentials and get me there. And it was just on a whim too. It was like, hey man, like want to just try this and see what happens. And Phil, shout out to him. He's just so great, helping me out through this whole process too. And he was like, yeah, sure. Why not? We'll apply under Jet Nation. We have a heavier follower count than you. We're more, recognized, obviously. So it doesn't hurt to, have the umbrella of Jet Nation. And, I'm just very thankful that I got the opportunity. I still remember the job I was working at back up in New Jersey when I saw the email that my credentials were accepted for the Senior Bowl. I was cutting tile for a shower job, and I stopped everything. I was like, dude, like, I can't believe this. Like I had to take a break at work for 5 minutes and just like jump around literally by the tile saw for a couple minutes. It was a fun time. And I recommend it to anybody who wants to get into this space. I think that the Senior Bowl and the Combine two best places for you to go and network yourself. And I'm still waiting to get to Indy. That's my next hurdle, and I'm gonna try to talk to Jake to see about how to get there. Hopefully this upcoming year. That would be great. Couple more questions and we'll get out of here. We're almost at the hour mark. Chris B with another one. Dylan, thoughts on the emphasis on special teams? Thoughts on Pritchett? Yeah, I mean, Pritchett sounds like a really intriguing prospect, right? UDFA, and he was at Senior Bowl, right? He's a South Alabama guy, and he got the invite to Senior Bowl. They usually allow one local guy to be at the practice representing, South Alabama at their home stadium. And I didn't have any crazy good notes. I remember when they signed him as a UDFA, I went back into my Senior Bowl notebook and I was like, what did I have written down about Pritchett? And nothing too crazy stood out to me. And that's probably why he went undrafted, but it makes sense. And if he's going to give you any juice on special teams, by all means, man. Like, I'm not an advocate of keeping Xavier Gipson on this roster just for the warm and fuzzies of it, right? I don't see him having enough pop as a return man. I don't think he's a nuanced route runner. I don't think he has the speed to be an elite separator. He's small, so he's not a contested catch guy. Like, I don't see what the allure is with Xavier Gipson right now. So if Jamal Pritchett can make that, splash onto the roster, maybe him and Kine Nwangu can be your return guys and, they can battle it out. But as long as it's not Xavier Gipson, I'm excited for it. And just overall emphasis on special teams, I would have liked the Jets to have more veteran guys. Obviously, I don't think maybe my reaction wasn't, over the top when they cut Thomas Morstead, but I was a little bummed. It's like, okay, now we're definitely hitting the reset button entirely on this entire unit. And you have Chris Banjo, who's never been a special teams coordinator before, although he is a damn good special teams player, and he's only 35. So, I mean, there's room for the ceiling to be high with the special teams unit. I just don't have any faith in having four guys in-house that have never kicked a ball at the NFL level. So I want to see them put a higher emphasis on special teams rather than, just talk about special teams as like being an important part and then not really matching it up with the personnel and the talent. Let's see. Oh, Big Fella in here. Shout out to you, Big Fella. He says, Dylan, you are the fucking man, bro. Great job with your channel. I appreciate it, Big Fella. Thank you for tuning in to a live. I think you've caught me live a couple times before, but it's always great when I see all the great as maniacs moving over that have followed me from Jake's channel over here. I truly appreciate it. You guys are, I've said it, A1 since day one in this community. You guys are so supportive and embracing, and it feels like it's just all love, right? And I think of Jamal Adams every time I say all love, but I feel like with this community, we actually show it, not just say it, right? So I appreciate you, big fella. Thank you for tuning in. Rich says, are there any decent kickers out there? So if you ask the Baltimore Ravens, they cut a really good football player, in my opinion, just a shit human being. So no, I don't think there's any good kickers out there that are worth it. And that's kind of the problem, right? Is like, you cut Zerline and there's not really much to replace it. I think even, Nick Folk sent a video of him kicking bombs to some NFL GMs. So that would honestly be one thing that I'm looking at. I would actually highly consider bringing Nick Folk back for another go around with the Jets. I feel like he was the last kicker we had who was consistent. Maybe was he after Jason Myers? I can't remember, but either him or Jason Myers were like the kicker that we could rely on no matter what for year over year. And we never had to worry about the position. Even with Greg Zerline, we were excited about him coming out of 2023, and then he shit the bed in 2024. So it's like we never really had that that consistency since Folk or Myers. So yeah, I would say Folk is probably the best option out there right now, and that's definitely not a good place to be. Incel Allen says, last time we signed a kicker from the Ravens that didn't go so well. I don't remember who it was, to be completely honest with you. It was like Kari Vedvik or something like that, maybe. I'm not sure. I can't remember who it was, but not many kickers have worked out, so there's a good chance that you're probably accurate on that one. Papa Jet, being the voice of reason. Yeah, no, I certainly get this. We don't know what these kids can do. Everyone is green at one point. Yeah, absolutely. And you've seen a lot more kickers and punters come into the league. I think of like Tyler Bass being a 5th-round pick of Buffalo. He came on the scene and he was banging 50-yarders right away in Buffalo. Evan McPherson with the Cincinnati Bengals, another one who came in and just, he was an immediate upgrade. And like you could tell right away that these guys were good changes for their teams. So yeah, I'm cool. I'm not saying that these guys are going to light the world on fire, but I also don't think they're going to be like dog shit, right? Like we're not going to have to be stressing over a PAT. Hopefully not, right? I mean, that's the big concern. If we're missing PATs in August in preseason, like we saw with Greg Zuerlein last year, and we had Austin Seibert, when we had him in-house and we saw what the kicking was doing in August and we kept Zuerlein over Seibert, that was a big mistake for me. So if we're seeing that same, missing PATs in August, get them the hell out of here and find a new kicker. So right now I would say the kicker is on the team, but they probably have the shortest leash of anybody else on this entire roster. With that, I don't see any more questions in the chat. So we're probably going to wrap it up here as we hit the 1 hour mark. I appreciate everybody. This is the 3rd day in a row I've gone live. Again, Monday was solo by myself, ranking the defense and special teams. Yesterday, I had Antoine Staley of the New York Daily News on. And then just before we had Matt O'Leary on for about a half hour. So, Eli said at the buzzer, DT, I got a question. He said, sorry, I'm driving home. Connor says, catch you guys in a little. Are you doing a show, Connor? Everybody tune into his show for sure. Eli Bet says, what's in the golf bag? Damn, dude, you were the one that asked. Okay, I promise you we will go over the bag. I didn't bring it inside. I'm so lazy, dude. I get out of work and I don't even think about what's in my back seat and I just walk inside. So I'm on the 2nd floor of my apartment, so it would probably take me a good 3 minutes to go downstairs and get my bag and bring it all the way up for you. But if you're on Discord, hit me up on Discord and I'll send it to you there and then we can discuss it. So I'm sorry about that, Eli, but drive safely getting home and hopefully I wouldn't be distracting you by showing you my golf clubs while you're driving anyway. Yes, Eli, the bag always stays in the car. There are a couple things down here in the South that you always need to have on you. And one is a 9 iron for sure. Ricky, New York, shout out to you. I will see you tomorrow. 24 hours from right this second. Yeah, it's 8:01. So 24 hours from right this second, I will be live smoking and debating with Ricky NY on his channel tomorrow, going over offense and defense entering this training camp portion. So really fired up for Ricky, New York, to get on his show. Everybody go follow his YouTube channel as well. He's been pumping out some really good content. Big fella. Okay, one more here, then we'll get out. Dylan, are the special teams going to screw us this year? I'd be lying if I said there is going to be a game where the special teams, doesn't let us down. There's going to be a situation, right? Maybe, similar to Denver last year in a shitty weather situation, or, against Buffalo when you have first place in the division on the line, your kicker might just not show up, right? I can't promise you that it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows with these guys. And there is probably going to be a game where they screw us over. Hopefully, we don't miss the playoffs by one game and we circle back to that moment and say, damn, the kicker screwed us. So maybe the fact that we're not going to be necessarily, deep playoff run contenders, it'll help, ease the pain if special teams screws us over. But I would say the over-under of 0.5 games, I would take the over on special teams screwing us here. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. I see almost 100 of us here in the chat based on StreamYard's numbers. I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe. I think everybody has to be subscribed at this point if they're commenting, but anybody watching after the fact, please subscribe. We're on the road to 1,000 subs. We need those watch hours up so I can get channel memberships. I can get exclusive film content. Rich, what the hell is that emoji you just put in the chat? And then we can also open up the merch store so I can get you guys rocking the DT hoodies and T-shirts, working on getting a good price point down for everybody where we'll like the price even after shipping, and we'll get that DT merch out to everybody. So one more time, like, subscribe. I'm Dylan Tereman. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.